Welcome to the 9 Gems podcast, a show that celebrates journeys of excellence and achievement. I'm your host, Sanskriti Bhardwaj, and in today's episode, we have an inspiring guest who has shattered barriers and reached remarkable heights. Join us as we delve into this captivating journey of Nehal Kaul, an alumna of GIIS Noida, who is here to share her story on the determination, growth, and success. From her early days at GIIS Noida to her current pursuit of an MPhil in economics at the prestigious University of Oxford in the United Kingdom, Nehal's journey is an example of what's possible with dedication and knowledge. She has not only carved a path for herself, but also serves as a guiding light for all the aspiring individuals aiming to make a mark in their chosen fields. Welcome, Neha. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Sanskriti. I'm glad to be here.
Glad to have you here too. So let's start with the questions.
Sure.
Prior to college, what was your daily routine like?
So I used to attend school and I used to go back home, and I think 3 days out of the 7 I used to have a 4 hours tuition. So I used to go to tuition from 4 to 8, after which I used to come back home, and by the time I reached back home, the day was pretty over. So usually it was a divide between, going to tuition, and on the other days I used to practice questions, do what was being done in class, essentially just trying to revise the content as much as possible. Because I was lucky enough that we had board in class 10th, so you pretty much had an idea how to prepare for boards in class 12th also. So I tried to do what I did in 10th. I used to revise everything as many times as possible. And largely what I had tried to do was, I tried to complete my syllabus by December so that in January and February I could have like 2 revisions of it prior to the actual exams.
Well, your hard work has certainly paid off, right? So how did you feel when you cracked the SRCC?
Pretty elated to be sure, because I had dreamed of going to SRCC since I was in grade 11th once I figured out that I want to pursue economics. So if you kind of look online, what's the best place to be in India if you want to pursue economics, SRCC is at the top most of the times. So I was pretty happy when I got into SRCC, and it was an entire journey, if I'm being honest, the last 3 years. So it defines why people consider SRCC to be the best place. So pretty happy, yeah.
So after the SRCC, what did you want to become, and how are you preparing for the same?
Sure. So when I had gone to SRCC, I was pretty sure I wanted to pursue economics. But once you reach to your college life, you realize that every field, whether it's economics, whether it's history, whether it's medicine, engineering, all of them have so many subfields in it. So when I reached college, my aim was to essentially try to explore all the fields I could possibly explore within economics. So I did a lot of research internships, I did a lot of consulting internships, I did a lot of finance internships. So what I've decided as of now is that I want to go in research, but specifically research which has an impact. So essentially places like World Bank, ADB, and such.
I see, that's amazing. You've done your research, right? It must have been a long time.
Yeah.
Time-taking task. Right, so when did you decide you wanted to go to Oxford, and how did it turn into reality?
I think funnily enough, the first time I had gone to the UK, it was when I was in class 10. So I had visited the campus of LSE, which is the London School of Economics.
Right.
And that was the time when I hadn't even decided I want to pursue economics. But I went to the campus and I was like, oh man, what it would be to study here, right? So after that, once I kind of narrowed down to the fact that I want to pursue economics, I thought that, well, LSE is a great place to be, right? You should apply for a master's there. So to be very fair, my goal for the last 3 years was to apply to LSE, get into LSE and go for a master's there. And I remember, I think a year back, when I was just completing my second year, I was making a list of all the potential colleges I might want to apply to. And then someone suggested, well, why not Oxford? And I was like, well, to be fair, that's a good question. So I had a list of like 5 colleges I wanted to apply to, and since LSE was my priority, that was the first place I applied to. And even before I submitted my Oxford application, I had already gotten an admit from LSE. So going to Oxford, it's something I decided after I got an admit from Oxford, after I had a look at the curriculum, after I realized that it's a way different course than the one which is at LSE. So at Oxford it's a 2-year course and it's a MPhil course, whereas at LSE it's a 1-year course and it's a Master of Science in Economics. So that's when I decided I want to go to Oxford. And very surprisingly, when you reach to college, a lot of research activities you're part of, you have to source data, right? So a lot of times when we source data, all these organizations, for example, data.org, My World in Data, all of these are situated in Oxford. And that's when you kind of realize, well, a lot of what you want to do is actually in Oxford, so why not go to Oxford?
Yeah, well, Oxford is a university that's widely known
Yeah.
all over the world. So you're lucky and you're smart as well from the way you're talking.
Thanks so much. So I think you had a second part of the question is how I made it to Oxford.
Yes.
So I think what I did was, again, you have to do your own research. You have to figure out what it needs to reach there.
Right.
And then you need to reach out to people who've done it before you. Because more than anyone else, it's those people who know how to crack it. And once you talk to them and once you figure out what they've done, you can kind of do the similar thing, but in your own space, in your own time. So yeah.
So a question related to GIIS. What was this school's role in shaping your journey?
Sure. So when I had come to GIIS, I was in class 7th, and funnily enough, I had joined the school in midterm. So people were already there, people had already made friends. But the good thing with GIIS was that we had a pretty small batch when we were there. So everyone was friends with everyone. So the biggest role which I would say that GIIS has played in all of it is that it has helped me to develop the confidence in myself. So being here, I've been able to be part of a lot of competitions, a lot of events, student council, all those things, right? And I think that's how you develop confidence in yourself. And when you want to do something which everyone thinks is like impossible to reach, then having that self-confidence, that plays the most important role. I mean, if you don't believe in yourself, it's very difficult to work hard. So yeah.
Well, since you passed the SRCC with your hard work and dedication, there are other students too who are trying to crack the same or any other competitive examinations. So any tips you would like to give them?
Sure. To be fair, the only competitive exam I've given in my entire academic life is when I applied for the GRE, which is the Graduate Record Examination for my Masters. But I would assume that it remains pretty same irrespective of the content of the exam. So definitely the question types are different, so you have to study different subjects and stuff. But I think if I would give more general tips of what helped me was that I tried to figure out where my strengths lay. So in GRE, you have the maths and you have the English and you have an essay section. So I knew I was pretty good at maths. So I had to focus more on the English section because it's generally at a higher level than what we are taught in India. So I focused more on what I knew I wasn't good at, right? But on the same hand, you have to make sure that the thing you're good at, you're not leaving that behind because that's what's going to pull your score up. So that's one thing. The second thing is, what I did was I maintained a mistakes log. So every time I solved any kind of questions, just after, let's say, a set of 40 questions I've solved, I would go through the solution and I would see how the book suggests you to do it or the actual institution suggests you to do it. Because they'll give you these tips and tricks which makes it much more easier and less time consuming to solve, right? So that's what I did. I marked all the questions I got wrong the first time around, and I used to practice all the questions I got wrong on the weekends. So essentially making sure that if I have solved a question once, I'm not getting the same question wrong on the exam. So that was the second thing I'd say. And the third is just practicing as many questions as you can.
Epitome of consistency, everyone. Right, so family, let's talk about family.
Sure.
Your parents, how did they react when you cracked the SRCC? And prior to that, what was their role in helping you and supporting you throughout your journey?
Sure. So in my family, I come from a family where everyone is an engineer. No one in my family or extended family is anywhere near the field of economics. So I think the biggest support that they showed towards me was that they accepted what I wanted to do and they supported me in doing what I wanted. So I remember when I was in class 11 and I told my dad that okay, I want to go pursue economics. He was a bit confused because he's never heard of the field, he's never heard what are the potential job opportunities, career opportunities and so on. So I think one thing I'm really grateful for my dad is that he took out the time to research himself. So he didn't leave it all on me, okay, you go and figure it out, that what you want to do and then you come tell me and then you explain me the merits and the demerits. He went and he searched himself, and when I was like really confused about what I want to do, he used to explain to me, okay, there is this you can do and there's this you can do and that's the merits and demerits. And then the same again with my mother. So obviously since they're engineers, they cannot relate a lot to what I study in my field. But the best part is that they always listen, and when they don't understand, they ask me to explain. So at least we can still have that conversation going even if they belong to a totally different field.
Right. Quite supportive.
Yeah.
I'm sure you liked it. I mean, it's quite rare to have parents like that.
Definitely. I mean, having someone who supports your dream even when they don't understand it, I think that's the best thing you can ask from your parents.
Absolutely. So I've got a friend who has shortlisted Oxford as one of her universities to attend to. She's planning on taking the writing course, I think, if there's anything like that. So any advice you would like to give to the youth who is trying to follow the same steps as you, or basically for attending any prestigious university?
Sure. I think one thing that I learned during my college time at SRCC was that the world is no longer the same it was, let's say, a decade ago. What really matters these days are the skills you have. Again, both soft skills and hard skills. So to be, let's say, a data analyst, you don't necessarily have to have a BTech in computer science. As long as you know how to code in Python, in R, SQL, you can be a data scientist, you can be a data analyst. So I think one advice that I would like to give everyone, especially everyone in 10th, 11th and 12th, which I didn't know back then, was develop these skills. And the best part is that these skills don't only help you to get a better job, but they also help you to explore your field. So let's say in the field of economics, a person in class 12 would think that what's the need of the coding, right? But once you come to college, you realize that the massive amount of data you have to deal with to figure out any theory, to make any project in economics work, you need to know coding.
Yes,
you need to figure out how to do that. I think it's things like that. Figure out these skills, these hard skills obviously, but also soft skills, how to talk to people, how to convince people. Very important. It plays a very important role, especially when you're sitting in interviews. You need to convince the other person that, well, why should I hire you or why should I give you the money to study? So stuff like that. And if someone wants to go to a prestigious university, again, I think the best thing to do is figure out what course you want to do and know why you want to do it. So you can't just be like, I want to do engineering. You need to know which field of engineering. You need to know why you want to do it. The why is the most important part of any application, because anyone who's sitting there, who's reading your application, they know they've read application for like a decade, so they know when someone is being honest and when someone is lying or just trying to brush things up. So I think that's the most important part.
Thank you so much. You even helped me when I was in a dilemma right now. I mean, I have been. I mean, 10th. So in 11th you have to choose your streams. So that's like that's the milestone that all of us hit.
Yeah, it's a very difficult point in life.
Yeah, sure. And there you have it. Another episode of the 9 Gems podcast comes to a close. Nehal Kaul's journey is a reminder to all of us that excellence is not a destination, but a continuous pursuit fueled by passion and perseverance. Nehal's achievements serve as a beacon of hope for all those dreaming big. Thank you for tuning into this episode where we uncovered the remarkable journey of Nehal Kaul. If you found her story as inspiring as we did, be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for more conversations with extraordinary individuals. Remember, greatness is within your reach. Until next time, keep reaching for the stars.